he is. We're going to see police cars here shortly coming after this truck to stop it to find out if indeed this is the person that they have been looking for. Again, a robbery suspect who has fired shots at police already and hit one police car, we are told, several times with gunshots, and now he's driving very erratically on this street, passing cars. As we mentioned earlier, here we go again, the squeeze play between two cars coming up on an intersection here, and he's been running stop signs and trying the best he can to make himself scarce.
The one thing in watching all of this, too, you notice is the danger that he's putting other people in as well. Now he's off-roading. He's just kind of gone into a green space area there. We know that the police officers are watching our air video right now, video that we're showing you here from News Chopper 2, to try to get a location on this person. As we've been following the driver of this pickup truck for about the last 10 minutes or so, we've been noticing just how...
Out, you can see the helicopter right over the top of the truck. This may be a situation where we actually see the HPD helicopter stop the vehicle itself.
Are they trying to communicate with it? Are they using radios from that helicopter? Do they have a loudspeaker on that helicopter where they can do such a thing?
Well, first of all, the truck's about to run into another fence. I'm going to give you a really wide perspective here. You can see the suspects are cornering themselves now. I can't tell you, on board the HPD helicopter, they all travel with a pilot and an observer. The observer is on the right side of the helicopter, and they are doing what they can to stop this vehicle. We've got several units coming into the field now, and he is going to do what he can to get out of this field. I do not know how many units he may be running into, but hopefully they're going to be able to position themselves to stop this truck in this field here.
And do you see any ground units near it? Because we have to remember that these guys are armed, whoever's inside of that truck, because we understand shots were fired earlier at police officers.
Okay, he's coming up on several units here. They're strategically placing themselves around. Okay, if you look on the left and right side of the screen, there are two units. They're going to try to box him here with the helicopter. We're going to come in. Okay, and I believe that officer's firing at the truck. Okay, there's several units in that field now, and he is back on the road. There was probably 6 or 7 units in that field. Almost saw an accident right there. He's back on a neighborhood side street.
And this is where they get desperate and could possibly cause some accidents, as we've seen a couple of near misses just within the last few minutes. Does it seem of those ground units are back behind it, or are they back in that field?
A lot of those units are going to try to get out of this field. Of course, you know, these suspects are in a truck, so they've got a lot more power to get through that field.
So they have the advantage.
He's driving at a very high rate of speed right here. This is an incredibly dangerous chase. They need to stop him as soon as they can, obviously. Those units are left behind in that field, and he's probably lost most of the ground units. They're going to have to call ahead. Okay, he's got more ground units coming up.
And
so several near misses.
Is the HPD helicopter still above it?
HPD helicopter is still above it. Not as close as he was. There goes 3 more units, past another unit right there. 5 more units there.
So it seems as though they just need to turn around.
Yeah, they're all having to turn around and follow him again. But he's probably doing 80 miles an hour on a side street here. This is going to, if he keeps up this speed, going to turn into a major accident, or you're going to see this truck lose control. And he is barreling through these intersections, blowing through red lights, blowing through stop signs, complete disregard for traffic. This is an incredibly dangerous chase.
Yeah, as you mentioned, dangerous chase, obviously because of these high speeds, but also because we know that these suspects are armed, linked to an armed robbery that happened, I guess, just before 3 o'clock in the Pasadena area. So,
yeah, we haven't seen any other shots fired so far. We did have reports of other shots fired when this chase first started. And he's cutting through an intersection, losing control of the vehicle here, and this is a prime opportunity for the police to box the vehicle in. Obviously, that's not going to happen. He is now going the wrong direction. Not sure what direction he's going, but he is in oncoming traffic, going northwestbound. You've got a unit right behind him now. Okay, southwestbound, rather. And I believe he is in oncoming traffic. And this is obviously, as we've mentioned many times, dangerous for several reasons.
And he's barely missing these cars.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's driving in oncoming traffic, okay, there's almost an accident right there. This easily could turn into a head-on collision. I'm going to widen out to give a little bit more perspective on the vehicles that he's approaching. There's a unit right there. And he's still in oncoming traffic. Okay, we are approaching Highway 3 now, back over near Ellington Field. The HPD helicopter just went through the shot again. They are still overhead. At the very least, he could try to get back into the right lane of traffic. Okay, here he is taking a left. He's back in the correct lane of traffic. He was driving erratically in oncoming traffic, very dangerous. Now he is with the flow of traffic heading, I'm not sure what direction we are heading or what road we're on. We're heading southbound now.
Clearly picking up speed.
Okay, and he's, okay, we're on the east side of Highway 3. He just blew through a school zone as well, driving at high rates of speed through this neighborhood, had shots fired at the beginning of the chase. We haven't seen shots fired since the reports
And
of the initial shots that were fired. We're heading towards Kemah right now, Jessica.
And he's been driving so fast and weaving so much that it's been difficult for police officers to get those spike strips on the ground to possibly stop this truck.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Heading towards the Webster-Kemah area. And he is still southbound, probably crossing Bay Area Boulevard now. Okay, coming up on Bay Area Boulevard right now, major intersection here. And I do not see any units directly behind the vehicle. Okay, now we are westbound on Bay Area Boulevard. He is westbound on Bay Area Boulevard. Still don't see any ground units directly behind the truck.
But the helicopter, HPD helicopter is still above the truck,
Yes,
right?
HPD helicopter still overhead. He's going to be coming up on some traffic here on Bay Area Boulevard. And if he continues on this direction, he will eventually hit the Gulf Freeway. He's blowing through another intersection. Okay, and he is approaching I-45 here in just a few minutes. We're going to stay with him, obviously. Still don't see any ground units. Okay, he's coming up on Highway 3, and he is running into a red light, running into traffic. Well, this may be an into the chase. We may see it turn into a foot chase here.
Do you see any police officers having caught up with him?
Not
Does
yet.
it look like it?
Not yet. Okay, here comes one. Here comes one now, turning into a foot chase. It looks
Looks like they're bailing out.
Looks like he's going to jump out of the vehicle.
That's the wrong truck.
Okay, there's the truck right there. Okay, he's taken off in this field. Okay, he's northbound along the railroad tracks, paralleling Highway 3 now. All of this is happening so fast. There were two white trucks there. It's easy to get them mixed up.
Absolutely. Obviously, the police officers did because they got out as well.
And they are paralleling the train tracks. That is Highway 3 on the left side of your screen. There's one unit on the side of the road, and he may just stay on this field here.
And that's right behind a fence line. There are homes back there.
That's correct. If this turns into a situation with the foot chase, he easily could jump the fence and run into a neighborhood here. There's the HPD helicopter overhead again, staying right on top of the truck. They're probably at 100 feet, maybe less, right on top of the vehicle. And units are doing everything they can to scramble and get as close to this vehicle as they can. As we mentioned before, it's much easier for this truck with the power the truck has to burn through these fields. A little bit more difficult for the cars to keep up with him. And he is coming through some kind of
power easement or
small power complex here. Do not know what road he is approaching. Still paralleling Highway 3. Several units on Highway 3, as you can see at the bottom of your screen. And he is...
Okay, so perhaps they'll...
Okay, here come two units that are going to try to cut him off. He is right at the corner of a neighborhood here, and he's coming back towards the fence line. This is a school, a church actually, that he is in front of. He's hitting the parking lot. He's going to find a way out of the parking lot and back onto a major road. Of course, he's going to run into several units right here. And he's avoiding the units.
I mean, he's doing everything he can to get away.
He is indeed doing everything, and they're doing everything they can to box him in. And you can see how many units are down here, probably 15 or 20 units now. Now we've got some other vehicle, another truck now, involved in this. We do not know if that's some kind of undercover unit or if it's just a motorist.
But it seems as though some sort of four-wheel drive or just a higher vehicle would help.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Right now, Jessica, he's back going the opposite direction we just came from. He's paralleling the tracks again, paralleling Highway 3, now going southbound, back towards Bay Area Boulevard. And he's obviously figured out that if he stays on the grass and on this field, it makes it much more difficult for the units to follow him. We are coming up on Bay Area Boulevard again. HPD helicopter right overhead. Now, I do know of situations where the observer in the HPD helicopter has stopped chases and stopped suspects from the ship itself. Now, whether or not that ends up a situation, whether or not it unfolds that way, we don't know, obviously, but the units are having a really difficult time staying with this truck, considering the fact that he continues to stay in this field.
Looks like he's losing control.
He is losing control periodically, but regaining control. He's coming up on Bay Area Boulevard. We'll see if he tries to stay off the streets. Several units trying to catch up to him.
And this chase has been going on now for almost 45 minutes.
45 minutes. We, just to recap, heard of it over off of Battleground Road at 225.
He's back in another parking lot.
Back into another parking lot. We're going to lose him here in this apartment complex. We'll try to stay with him. He's going to cut through this parking lot. I'm going to widen out so I can see where he's going. Okay, there he is right there. He's cutting through these parking lots. We'll see if he makes his way back over to a main road here.
You know, usually what we see is that they bail out when they find that there's nowhere else to go, but this guy just keeps on going.
He's finding plenty of other places to go to. We're trying. Okay, there's people walking through this parking lot. This is very dangerous. You know, I wish there was a way that we could alert some of these folks to stay out of the way. Okay, he is in some apartment complex, running through the parking lot of this apartment complex. You're going to have pedestrians crossing the lot. We just saw a person walking to their car almost get hit. And he's had several near misses with several vehicles as well.
And those are speed bumps he's hitting? He's going over? It looks...
Okay, he's going back to the easement now. There's a unit right there. Okay, he's been blocked in. Just saw him hit a police car. Sideswipe that police car. He's going back to the easement now. Back over near Highway 3. And he's going to cruise. Okay, we're back northbound on the easement now, paralleling Highway 3 and the train tracks again. This is the third time we've seen him on this easement. He's back northbound, paralleling the tracks along Highway 3 now. He initially came off of Bay Area Boulevard. He's crossing the tracks. Looks like he might lose control. No. He's going to get on Highway 3. Okay, now he's turning back southbound on Highway 3 now.
And he's losing some of that stuff that was in the bed of the pickup.
Losing a lot of the stuff in the back of the truck for sure.
Picking up speed again.
Picking up speed. Coming up on Bay Area Boulevard again from Highway 3, southbound now.
And so far there have been dozens of near misses of just regular old people driving down the street. He has sideswiped a police car, and he just keeps on going.
Just keeps on going. We just saw him sideswipe that police car. Had several near misses. He's probably doing 60, 70 miles per hour now on Highway 3. We are in the Webster area. I do not believe we've crossed Bay Area Boulevard. We may have. He's going to run into some traffic here again. He's coming up on, okay, cut through a yard there, lost some, whatever was in the back of the truck. And we're over near the medical center near Webster. He's westbound. He's going to make a U-turn, head back eastbound now. Okay, the road that we're on is called Medical Center. And he's back eastbound now on Medical Center. He's going to run into more traffic here, cutting through another yard here.
And this is in the clear area.
Okay, we're back southbound on Highway 3. Just cut through a gas station.
And this is in the Clear Lake area. Just to recap, we've been following this police chase now for about 30 minutes. It started around 2:45. We believe these are robbery suspects inside this white pickup truck. We have several units following it from Pasadena, Deer Park Police Department, as well as the Harris County Precinct 8 Constable's office. Several times they've lost this pickup truck, but then have found it again. HPD's helicopter has been also following above, and it has just weaved all over southeast Harris County, at times going at very high rates of speed, now slowing down on these smaller side streets, but again, picking up speed.
Jessica, we're westbound on NASA Road 1 now, picking up a lot of speed. He's blowing through these lights. Okay, he's coming up on 45 here. He's in oncoming traffic now. Okay, he's driving basically in the turn lane. Almost saw a major accident right there with that green truck.
What?
That was incredibly close. Okay, he's driving in the turn lane now. and occasionally in oncoming traffic. He's getting back with the flow of traffic, coming up on a major intersection here, coming up on 45. He's trying to get to the Gulf Freeway, no doubt. He's making the exit to 45. Looks like he might lose control, and he maintains control of the truck. Several units still trying to catch up to him here. Okay, we are now northbound on 45. He's now on the service road of the Gulf Freeway, traveling northbound. We'll see if he gets on the main lanes. HPD helicopter still overhead. Several ground units trying to catch up. All this continuing to unfold in the Webster Clear Lake area. Okay, he's getting on the main lanes of 45. Now he's northbound on 45, Gulf Freeway. And he's got plenty of room to run here. He's on the shoulder, and he's going to try to pick up as much speed as he can. He's probably doing 80 miles per hour on the shoulder of 45.
And just passing people on the left.
Just blowing by people on the left like they're standing still, basically. All these units are going to have a tough time getting ahead of him, although they're obviously going to call ahead to other units that hopefully will be able to cut him off. This may be a prime opportunity for them to try to throw some spikes down if they're able to get ahead of the truck far enough. Of course, that all depends on where the truck goes, obviously, but for some reason, obviously the reason he's staying on the shoulder is to pass by all of this traffic. There's a lot of heavy traffic right now on the Gulf Freeway northbound, so he is just staying on the shoulder. Probably doing about 75, 80 miles per hour now.
Because we are almost in rush hour traffic time, and clearly there are a lot of cars on the road there. There have been several near misses. He has sideswiped a police car. Now he pulls into the main lanes.
And almost lost control right there. The main lanes on the Gulf Freeway. HPD helicopters right ahead of us.
And Dave, as you said, this is very dangerous because if he loses control, he's easily going to hit one of those people just driving down the highway.
Yeah, with the amount of traffic on 45 right now, it's not going to be one vehicle. It's going to be several vehicles involved in an accident here if he loses control of his truck. Just complete disregard for every other motorist on the freeway here. Still don't know how many people are in the truck, but we do know that they're possibly armed. They're wanted in some kind of robbery that happened over the Pasadena area. Been following this chase now for about 35 minutes, and all of it has happened between 225 all the way down to Bay Area Boulevard. He's been twisting and turning through several neighborhoods. And right now we are northbound on the Gulf Freeway.
Looked, I would assume, was some sort of computer equipment bouncing out of the back and disintegrating. Can we get an idea of exactly where this driver is here on 45 North, since we're still 45 northbound, still heading toward downtown Houston?
And we're getting word now, according to the pilot. Tell me again, Lisa Pratt. Oh my goodness. According to Air 11, the driver of this truck is exceeding speeds of 110 miles an hour at different points. Now, whether that's happening right now, I don't know, but I have noticed that this driver has really, really gone fast. Now, of course, he's on 45, so can really pick up speed just past the Scarsdale Boulevard sign, 45 northbound, still in southeast Harris County.
Oh, coming up onto the Beltway here, and if you're familiar with this area, 45 north into the Beltway, this is where things get, you get the big maze and the junction in this area, and it's unclear where this driver might go next, if he might attempt to go onto the Beltway or just continue to stay on the shoulder to attempt to evade police.
Yeah, it's amazing in these situations when people take off like this. I don't ever recall anyone getting away when the police, when the choppers have got a bead on you. This is going to end. They're going to find you. Why people don't just pull over and just lay down? It amazes me. And they put all these people in jeopardy. They could run into someone else can get hurt. So let's watch and see how this unfolds, and hopefully that is not the case.
So we know we have Pasadena police involved, and now that this driver has come into the Houston area, we're going to have Houston police involved. We already saw their blue chopper buzzing along with the rest of the media choppers following this suspect, waiting to see if he or she spins out of control and approaching the Beltway, and looks like the suspect's going to be not going to make a turn on the Beltway. Oh, closely just missed that median there.
Yeah, he or she is driving erratic. First they're on the left shoulder, now they're on the right shoulder. And let's see what happens here. Again, this is a person suspected of trying to rob a dry cleaners in Pasadena on the 5800 block of Red Bluff.
Getting off at Fuquay, it appears. Yes, the driver's getting off the highway.
Okay, and he is exiting on the service road here near Fuquay. Okay, we are coming up on Fuquay. That's the exit that he took. We'll see if he stays on the feeder road or if he goes left or right on Fuquay.
Staying on the service road for now.
Staying on the service road for now. If he passes Fuquay, he'll come up on Alameda Genoa.
But, you know, he hasn't waited for exits or entrance ramps to get on and off the freeway, so it's possible he'll just hop on.
Yeah, he's liable to do anything. I mean, through the 40 minutes that we've been following this truck, this is probably one of the most erratic chases that we've covered in some time. He's driving completely erratically all over southeast Houston, all over the Clear Lake area, Webster area. Apparently it's a white male, possibly in his 50s, is the information that we're getting right now. Possibly a single suspect in the truck. Wanted in some kind of robbery over in the Pasadena area. We do not know if there's a passenger in the vehicle. Okay, apparently he's wanted for robbery at a cleaners in the Pasadena area. Okay, and he's coming up on some traffic. We're going to try to get around here. Okay, he may be U-turning here. Okay, and there he is. Now he is oncoming traffic. Not sure what road we're on. We're either on Alameda Genoa or Fuquay, and we're going to see an accident right here. He hit that truck, and he's still trying to make his way on oncoming traffic. Several motorists seeing him come by, pulling over. He's scraping by these vehicles. At some point, he's going to hit a vehicle head-on here.
And Dave, on the phone we have right now is Vance Mitchell with the Pasadena Police Department. Vance, can you fill us in on how all of this started? We've gotten some details, but not all of them. We understand it started at a cleaners. Vance, can you hear me?
Okay, Jessica, it looks like his front right tire has a flat tire. He's on Alameda Genoa. He's blown through that stop sign. He's still westbound on Alameda Genoa. Further west he goes. We are south of Hobby Airport now. He'll be approaching Telephone Road here in a few minutes. He's swerving in and out of traffic. He's sideswiped probably, or scraped by, I should say, several cars. Okay, now he's turned north. He's pulling back into a road that's going to turn into a foot chase right here unless he backs the vehicle up. And we're going to have to come around here and get out of the trees. We're going to lose the shot here.
Looks like he's backing up.
Okay, he's backing up the vehicle. He's going to come back south to Alameda Genoa.
But he is riding on a flat tire, right?
It appeared that he blew a tire, the right front tire, but right now as I look at it closer, it seems like it is not flat. He apparently has all of his tires inflated.
And we were able to catch a glimpse of the suspect just there with that one shot. We understand he is a white male in his 50s who police say robbed a cleaner's store probably just before 3 o'clock this afternoon. And he has been traveling ever since then, weaving in and out of neighborhoods all over Southeast Harris County on the freeways, and he's not slowing down.
Yes, he's been in and out of oncoming traffic. He scraped by several vehicles. He hit one police car in an apartment complex, almost hit a pedestrian at that same complex. Okay, now we're on Fuquay. And I believe we're headed westbound on Fuquay. And he is in with the flow of traffic. Several times he has gone against the flow of traffic. But he's westbound on Fuquay with the flow of traffic. Should be coming up on Telephone Road here in a few minutes. We're coming up on Blackhawk first. Okay, and it looks like he's going to maybe make a U-turn. Okay, now we're southbound on a side street here through a neighborhood near Blackhawk and Fuquay, just south of Hobby Airport, coming back up to the Beltway. If he keeps on this direction, he'll hit the service road at the South Belt. And at that point, if he hits the Beltway, assuming he stays with the flow of traffic, he's cutting through a field here again.
So either this guy's been really lucky or he just knows his way around Southeast Harris County very well, because he's been able to evade police now for about an hour and 30 minutes, almost an hour and 30 minutes.
I would say it's probably a great deal of luck at this point. Not sure what road this is. Okay, but he's coming up on the South Belt. If he stays with the flow of traffic, he's going to have to go westbound on the service road. That's the only option he has. Of course, he's been driving completely erratically, so it's entirely possible that he'll take a left instead of a right and go against the flow of traffic on the service road of the Beltway. If that happens, I don't see the chase lasting much more longer than that. He's coming up on traffic here, coming up on the South Belt, where he should take a right and get on the service road. Okay, that's the service road of the Beltway. And he's making the U-turn, and now he's coming through the Beltway, and now he's going to be back eastbound. He's eastbound now along the service road back towards 45. Well, at some point he's got to run out of gas. We know that much. Whether or not they're able to stop this chase before that happens, we don't know. Several ground units desperately trying to keep up with this truck. HPD helicopter still overhead.
And Dave, does the HPD helicopter have enough fuel for how long is their fuel supply?
Well, typically our fuel supply is about 2 hours. They fly the helicopter they're in right now is an MD-500. A bit of information we're getting, Jessica, is the truck is registered or apparently comes back to a residence in the Pasadena area. Again, information we've been fed is that it's a 50-year-old white male suspect in the truck. And again, the vehicle comes back to a residence in the Pasadena area. As far as fuel goes, the helicopter that HPD is flying right now is an MD-500, I believe. I do not know what their fuel capacity is. I believe it's about the same as ours, possibly 2 hours. Typically, when they go out to patrol, they do 2-hour flights at a time. So I'm assuming that they are able to stay up.
Like he's doing yet another U-turn to go westbound on the service road. And Len, we mentioned that the police trying to stay back. We did see at one point in a field there was a police officer who was taking cover behind his car and trying to fire some shots into the. Will
depend on how long they can stay. If they've been covering this for the past hour and a half, more than likely they've only got about 30 minutes of fuel left. I don't think they've been up the entire time though, so I would imagine they've probably got another good hour on board as we do.
And I am going to take over for Jessica Willey, who's going to move from in our studio in the newsroom to back here on the desk with me. And I know, Dave Garrett, you've been covering this since the chase began. I know Jessica just asked you about the extent to which the HPD helicopter is able to stay with you, but I'm not seeing as many police vehicles as we certainly saw down in Clear Lake. They're having a tough time with them on freeways, huh?
That's correct, Gina. The ground units are having a very difficult time keeping up with the truck. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he was in and out of these fields here in easements paralleling Highway 3. Very difficult for the cars to keep up with him, considering the fact that he's in a truck. Right now, just to update folks, we are on the Beltway, the South Belt, traveling westbound on the South Belt. Still a lot of traffic along the Beltway, but as you mentioned, Gina, the ground units are having an incredibly difficult time keeping up with him. In fact, I don't see any ground units anywhere near the vehicle at this time. Only the HPD helicopter overhead, and they will continue to stay over the vehicle, obviously, and relay to the ground units where he is. And, of course, they're going to radio ahead and see if they can mobilize more units up ahead of him to eventually catch up with him. But he's driving so erratically. He's been doing speeds of 80, 85 miles per hour along 45, along the Beltway, along surface streets, through neighborhoods. He's hit 2 or 3 vehicles. He hit one officer, in fact, almost hit a pedestrian in an apartment complex. As you know, this whole thing's been going on for some time. Apparently wanted in a robbery at a cleaners in Pasadena. At least one suspect, a white male in his 50s, driving this vehicle. We do not know if there's another person in the truck or not.
And Dave, to cut you off briefly, I just got some information from our newsroom desk, assignment desk, that it all began in the 5800 block of West Red Bluff at the Queen Oaks Dry Cleaners, and they identified the vehicle leaving that robbery scene about 3 o'clock. I know we've been saying about 2:45, 3 o'clock. So, yeah, about an hour and 10 minutes now, they've been in pursuit of what they believe to be, as you said, at least one lone suspect, not being able to confirm whether or not there's a passenger inside that vehicle at this time.
And that's correct. And also information that we had is initially when the chase started, Gina, that shots were fired from the truck. So we believe that the suspect is armed. Now, since he's gotten off some of the roadways and was driving along the fields and on the easements, we never saw any other shots fired at any officers. However, as I mentioned before, he did strike one officer with the vehicle. An officer trying to stop him in an apartment complex. He sideswiped that car and, of course, took off. We're still westbound along the South Belt now, and we should be approaching 288 soon. Okay, we're still a ways.
Is the traffic looking thin ahead of you? I'm sorry, Dave. Is the traffic looking pretty thin ahead of you, or is it getting heavier?
It's going to be a little bit heavier. I'm trying to look ahead of us. It's really not too bad. It's fairly thin right now. The South Belt, which is an avenue I typically take coming to Hobby, is usually fairly thin traffic-wise. So he's got some good room to run. He's had a lot of stuff in the back of the truck also that's been falling out of the truck throughout this chase. He's been averaging about 85 miles per hour. He's
Amazing.
stayed. Okay, we're not sure how far from the toll plaza he is, but of course he's going to. Okay, he's coming up on the toll plaza right now, in fact, and of course he's going to blow through this toll plaza. Now there are typically several police units at these toll plazas, and I'm surprised, in fact, that they don't have those units mobilized to try to pull him over and stop him.
At no time has it appeared to me from watching the coverage that HPD has not been able to stay with him, at least from the helicopter vantage point.
The helicopters actually stayed with him pretty well. The ground units have had almost an impossible time staying with him. Now he's exited. He's on the service road now, somewhere around Makawa. There's the helicopter right there. They've been staying at about 100 feet right over his head. And he's on the service road at the South Belt. And we are either at MLK or Makawa, possibly a little further than that. There is another toll plaza way up ahead, but I don't think he's going to get back on the Beltway. Of course, he might. There's a lot of traffic coming up ahead.
Dave, let me interrupt you for a moment to say that Jessica Willie is on the set with me now, so the two of us will both be talking to you from time to time.
Okay, he's northbound now, Gina and Jessica. I'm not sure what road this is. Side street somewhere near Makawa or MLK. I don't know how far west we are. I've been obviously paying attention to the shot here. Our pilot, John, has been trying to feed me as much information as possible, of course, with our assignments editors on the ground giving us as much information as they can. He's northbound now. Coming up, he's actually through a new neighborhood that's being built, and he should be coming up on Fuquay or West Orem is the area that we are in. We are still near. We are southwest of Hobby. Okay, he's heading back eastbound towards Hobby now.
And this really has been incredible. I mean, the police have been on this guy's tail for about an hour and a half. That is a very long time. At times they have lost him, but of course HPD's helicopter has been right above, so he hasn't been able to go far without police presence near him.
Yeah, that's correct. Right now, just to give you an update on where he is, he's eastbound on Fuquay, and he will be. Okay, I'm getting conflicting information on exactly what road this is.
It looks deserted out there.
I'm sorry, say again?
It looks deserted out there.
Just about. This area southwest of Hobby Airport is a fairly
rural out there.
Rural area. There's a lot of fields out here. There are homes, and there are several businesses, a lot of them smaller homes, smaller businesses. But he is fast approaching Makawa or MLK. I don't know how far west we got of Makawa. I believe he's coming up on Makawa. I believe we're eastbound either on Fuquay or West Orem. I believe it's Fuquay, though.
And Dave, how fast do you think he's going right now?
Right now, he's probably not doing more than about 50 or 60 miles per hour. If I could ask our pilot, John, what our ground speed is. Okay, we're about 65 miles per hour, so he's doing about 60. We're slightly ahead of him. He's right out my left window to give you a little perspective on our direction here. Hobby is very close to us.
But that's likely in an area where the speed limit's probably 35 or 40 miles per hour, so that's quite a bit over.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have seen him probably doing 70, 80 miles per hour through school zones, in fact, as well.
Clearly, at an hour and a half almost of being pursued, it should be dawning on him that he's not going to get away from HPD at this time, because in an area like this, he certainly could ditch the car and run. But HPD is right over him, and has stayed right over him throughout.
Yeah, I would think so. He's had several opportunities to ditch the truck and turn this into a foot chase. Obviously, he's not seized those opportunities. If he ditches the truck anywhere in this area, he's going to be caught out in the open. There's not a whole lot of places to hide out here. It's really just a lot of open field, which would lend itself to his capture pretty easily, actually.
And because it has lasted so long, it seems this man is desperate, and that's where it gets dangerous, because if he is armed, anything could happen. Obviously, he has used his truck to sideswipe some of the vehicles, including police vehicles. And as we saw earlier, we saw somebody standing in the parking lot of an apartment complex, and he almost hit that person. Yeah, that's true. We're on a road called Shamir, just to give you an update on the road that we're on. He's coming up on Makawa. Okay, he's taking a right. We're southbound now on Makawa. Southbound on Makawa, and he will be coming up on the service road, the Beltway again, which he will either... Now, Makawa, I don't believe, has an exit to the Beltway. So he is either going to have to take a right to get back on the Beltway, or he's going to end up staying on Makawa.
Dave, since we're approaching 4 o'clock, let me just welcome viewers who are turning to Eyewitness News at 4 o'clock. I'm Tina Gaston, along with
Jessica Willie, and we have been following this high-speed police chase for about an hour now. It started in the Pasadena area after a robbery. The driver of a white pickup was driving erratically, going the wrong way at times, speeding and even hitting some cars.
Yes, we do know a little bit about the gentleman that police believe they are pursuing. They believe this suspect is a white male in his 50s. They believe he may be alone. The vehicle he is in is registered to someone living in Pasadena, and in fact, the robbery of a dry cleaners, the Queen Oaks dry cleaners, occurred in Pasadena about 3 o'clock. So as you see, it has been a good while that police have been pursuing this vehicle, as we said, through fields, through easements, through apartment complexes, through gas stations. And several times it appeared as though police had got him, that they had managed to block off his digress. But no, he always seemed to be able to slip right through the small lane there and get away from them. At a time, too, we thought we had a hip-hop tire, but flat tires seemed not to be.
Because he had lost control several times, so it seemed as though he had a flat tire, or perhaps maybe two. Obviously, he kept on going. It doesn't appear he is being slowed down by anything at this time. This chase happening in southeast Harris County. We were talking earlier, either this guy is really lucky or he knows the county very well, and that part of it, because he's been able to evade police for so long. That dry cleaners where the robbery happened, police telling us that it's in the 5800 block of Red Bluff, and both PD as well as Precinct 8 Constable's Office from Harris County, as well as Pasadena Police and the Deer Park Police Department, have all been following this white pickup truck for some time now.
Dave, you want to tell us now where he is and where you are?
He's still southbound on Macala. I believe that we just crossed McCard Road, which turns into 2234 down near Missouri City. I believe he's crossing through a neighborhood, Brookshire Village, if I'm not mistaken, south of the Beltway. It's coming in. Brookside Village was the name of the neighborhood that he's been running through here southbound.
Has been pretty lucky so far.
Yeah, that's the right word, lucky. And you make a good point, Mike, that police have done a good job of staying back, not to provoke a confrontation where this guy shoots again and somebody gets hit, innocent bystanders or police for that matter. So they have stayed back. And now he's on a more crowded road.
Picking up speed again. Mike, what road? Can you give us an idea? Do you know what road he's on right now?
I'm not sure which road we're on right now. Stand by just a minute.
Westbound on Broadway is what we're being told. Through an intersection. And,
now we're in Pearland.
Yeah, FM 518 in Pearland.
And that's basically the main drag down through Pearland.
Right. FM 18 in Broadway, the same
518. Yeah, down at Pearland. This is it's become a busier area as Pearland has begun to expand. And as this man gets on more crowded roads, it appears he just wants to pick up speed and create more hazards for himself. And that creates an incredible amount of problems for police because they want to stop him, but they don't want him to drive him to do anything even more rash than he has done already.
This is a delicate and dangerous situation for police. Look at this. He just missed another truck. The driver's heading towards Highway 288, according to our producer, on FM 518, which is the same as Broadway in Pearland.
And we know that is a very busy intersection. Highway 288 and 518 is where all of the new big stores are going up around Pearland, so we know we'll be seeing a lot of traffic in that area.
And now, for the first time in several minutes, we're now seeing a police cruiser closer to this pickup truck. Perhaps at this point, police are changing tactic, but we'll have to watch and see. Not sure. This guy's driving, down the middle of the road, like in the
center turn lane now.
Center turn lane, which is not good.
Speeding along, the Pearland police would likely be getting involved at this point since he's coming into Pearland. And again, will traffic stop him if he starts running into traffic? Obviously, he doesn't care if he drives through an intersection like that. And when he gets closer to 288, he'll see even more traffic, and perhaps enough of that will force him to stop. In Maryland, as you said, we're seeing another police officer who's coming up a little bit closer, a law enforcement officer coming up closer to perhaps try to stop this man.
Yeah, they haven't gotten close enough, and we've reiterated this many times, to either lay spikes down, shoot out the tires. They've been very, very careful, kept at a certain distance. The guy is, obviously very desperate, and he's done some really crazy things. He's already hit a few vehicles and driven through fields and gone in the wrong direction. So I think police have decided they're going to hang back and hope that this driver, who robbed a dry cleaner quite some time ago and has already fired shots, will make a mistake that doesn't involve anybody else.
Driving around, more traffic, driving through another major intersection. He has been very lucky not to get involved. And part of the things the police would be trying to do at this point is radio down the road and say, let's try to get some of the civilians out of the way. Let's try to clear a path for this driver so he doesn't hit anybody else as he travels down Broadway, heading eastbound to I would believe it would be eastbound at this point, hard to tell, but he's heading toward 288, and these are the Pearland area.
To force them into a situation like this.
Well, especially when it's obvious police are having no trouble keeping up with you. I mean, I could see if he felt he was eluding them at some point and might really get away, but clearly that's not going to happen.
We ask that question all the time. You have to wonder because the helicopters are always going to be above, even if the ground units aren't very close to you.
Yeah, that's true. And not just the chase, but the robbery itself as well. You know, there's no telling what's going on, what the circumstances are in a person's life that makes them feel pressured enough to cause a robbery and end up moving in the direction that this person is moving. And now this suspect here, again, the vehicle came back to a residence.
Dave, how fast is he going? He looks like he's going at a faster clip now.
He's probably doing about 65 still, 70 miles per hour. John, what is our ground speed now, if you could tell me? Okay, he's about 50 miles an hour. Our ground speed,
okay.
Almost an accident right
yeah.
there. Almost hit that van. He's about 50 miles per hour, or he was. He slowed down through that intersection, as he's done almost every time.
And just to give you an idea of how long this has lasted, we have some better information from police. The robbery, we're told, happened at 2:30 this afternoon, and police picked up this chase at about 2:45. So it's been going now for an hour and 15 minutes, longer, an hour and 20 minutes for some time, and he's been able to elude them for all of that time.
He has. He's done a very dangerous job is the word that I'll use, eluding police. And he's been driving in the turn lane almost the entire time along 518. He's had several near misses. Okay, he's southbound on 288 now.
I tell you what, though, a lot of folks are picking up their kids from school right now, and it sure made me nervous to see him going through those thinner lanes there at that fast a clip, knowing that there are folks taking their kids home from school at this hour.
Yeah, we saw him at high rates of speed through school zones. And thankfully, he's at least on open road now. But you have obviously all the other motorists to be concerned about now. He's southbound on 288. There were, I think, 3 units behind him as we came around there and adjusted the helicopter here. There are 10 units behind the truck in total. 3 of them are close behind. He's moving off into a field here.
And this is where he has the advantage of, as we've seen all this afternoon, because he's in that pickup and he can actually drive through these fields, unlike some of those police cars that the officers are in.
Yeah, that's true. And right there you saw him pass that 18-wheeler, a tanker truck. That's, you know, just incredibly dangerous, obviously, passing these 18-wheelers. There's no telling what kind of chemical may be on board there. You know, and if he lost control of that truck through a field and ended up causing an 18-wheeler to jackknife for some reason or turn over, you're talking about several people involved in an accident here. There's construction through 288 right now. You just saw a dump truck right there through the shot. He's picking up speed now, probably about 70 miles per hour, 75 miles per hour. That is our ground speed. John has just told me, our pilot, doing a fantastic job keeping us over this chase here.
Dave, are we heading to Alvin from Pearland now?
We should be south of the Pearland area. He's on 288, which he is. We should be approaching Highway 6. And right now he is making a U-turn, or attempting to make a U-turn here. And he's back northbound on 288 now.
So back toward Pearland.
Back towards Pearland. He never made it quite to Highway 6. And 1 unit close behind him. Now, we do not know what their pursuit policy is. After the chase that we saw that lasted about 2 hours, that ended up making national news, where the suspect eventually had a head-on collision on an entrance ramp over near the Shepherd area. With all that was involved with that police chase, we don't know if their pursuit policy now is to try to force a car off the road or not. I don't know.
But not Skyfox, rather the police Fox units, their helicopter units, have been keeping close eyes on this.
Team driving on the fields.
You know, unless this guy runs out of gas, it's almost has to end in an accident, and that's obviously where it becomes very dangerous. We do understand that at the beginning of this chase, shots were fired, police telling us that the suspect fired shots at them, and then we understand that when he passed McCalla Road, police telling us that they believe that he threw a pistol out of the truck at that time, but police believe that he was at least armed at one time during this chase.
Yeah, that's correct. Initially, when the chase began, shots fired. There was a time when he was cutting through a field, and it looked like police may have him trapped. There was a fence that he had basically cornered himself in, and we did not see any shots fired from the truck at that point, but obviously he was able to maneuver the vehicle and get back to a street to elude the police. Just crossed 518 right there, doing about 65 miles per hour. I don't know whether or not there was a red light.
I think the light was in his favor in that instance.
Yeah, I believe that it was. But, okay, there's a vehicle now that's going to come into the shot that's trying to catch up to him right there.
Right.
That blue car. Don't know whether or not that is some kind of undercover agent or just a motorist trying to help out.
But it seems as though that vehicle's following the truck.
Yeah, it appears that that vehicle is following the truck. They just came into the shot there, and of course the truck is losing them again now. There were 10 units earlier, southbound down 288 in total, that were following the truck. Only 3 of them are really in close proximity behind the vehicle. And he has not quite lost them. We're doing about 80 miles per hour now as I maintain the shot and look out the window. There are still 2 units behind him. There's an 18-wheeler up ahead. He may lose control here. He's going to try to get on the service road.
No, he didn't. And I tell you what, you mentioned that might have been a civilian trying to help out. If you're watching and you're thinking about helping out, don't. It doesn't help. It merely puts you in the police officer's way and increases your risk to harm. So let the pros do their job.
Yeah, not advisable for people to try to get involved in this at all.
And Dave, he just made another turn, so tell us where he is now.
Okay, he's, I believe, eastbound now. I'm not sure. Okay, we're on Country Place is the name of the road. He's eastbound on Country Place. He is in oncoming traffic again.
And it looks like he's looking for a way to get out because he keeps him popping up on the curb as if he is going to drive across the grassy area, but then he hops back onto the roadway. Yeah, you can tell at times he's not quite sure what he wants to do. In fact, I'm surprised at this point that he hasn't tried to bail out and turn this into a foot chase, which it still may end that way. But he's still in oncoming traffic along Country Place eastbound, crossing a bridge here. A couple of vehicles there. I believe we're northbound now.
Not much traffic, though, in that neighborhood, it looks like.
Yeah, not much traffic through here. This is a largely residential area.
Where there could be children playing on the streets if they're outside their homes, people walking down the street. Yeah, just overall just a dangerous area here as far as the residential area goes. Okay, now he's back in a field here over near Country Place. It looks like he's on a golf course now. First time we've seen this. Yeah, I think you're right. And the police officers, I don't see them in your shot. Can you see whether or not the ground cars have been able to keep up with him at all? I know he has the advantage on the grass, as you said before. Okay, we are at the Country Place Country Club in Pearland with the suspect driving through the golf course, and the ground units, Gina, are on Country Place Road, paralleling the truck as he drives through the golf course. I see them now. Driving on the fairway. Certainly going to ruin somebody's tee time here. Okay, the HPD helicopter is right overhead still, and the ground units are paralleling the truck as he drives through the golf course. And he is, I believe, on the north side of a neighborhood here. The Country Place golf course coming back to 288. There's a large lake. You have to think that he's boxed in by fences. Now he's back on a roadway. Yeah, he was just north of a neighborhood. You saw the fence line right there. There goes the HPD helicopter. And he is on some kind of dirt road here near 288. And we'll see what direction he goes here. Okay, he's back into that construction on 288? Yeah, that's correct. We are back on 288. Now he's northbound. Back on 288. A lot of construction on 288 right now, widening the roads and the lanes here. He's on, I don't know if he's actually on an open portion of 288 or not. Okay, he is. He's on the service road of 288. For a second, it looked like he was on the construction lane that may have been closed, but he is, in fact, northbound on the service road of 288, coming back towards the Beltway. We are coming back up on the Beltway. We'll see what direction he goes on the Beltway now. He's going to go eastbound on the Beltway, back towards the Gulf Freeway. It almost seems as though he doesn't want to get to an area where it just would be free-flowing, because certainly had he stayed on 288 south,
there would not have been nearly as much traffic as heading back toward Pearland.
That's correct. The further south down 288 you go towards Freeport, obviously the less traffic you're going to get probably.
And then heading to the Gulf Freeway, that's going to be traffic too. Certainly a lot of traffic at this time of day.
Yeah, that's correct, Gina. He's okay. Now he's getting back on the Beltway. He's on an entrance ramp eastbound on the Beltway. See if he's coming up on another toll plaza. I don't. That was Cullen that we just passed. He should be approaching a toll plaza here in a few exits.
And Dave, as you mentioned, it's those toll plazas that could work to the police officer's advantage, because as he goes through, hopefully they'd be able to stop him.
It could, because he's forced to go through that plaza. You know, it's a confined space, so it's an opportunity for them to physically block the plaza with a vehicle or with at least spikes to try to flatten the tires. Whether or not that's an opportunity they're going to seize, I don't know. But he's on the right shoulder now.
Yeah, they don't have much time to get it prepared, though, too, because he's just been on this route for, what, 25 seconds now.
Well, that's true, but the chase has been going on for an hour and a half, so they should have, you know, some idea at some time, you know, as early as they can radio ahead to the direction that he's going. They should be able to mobilize something.
And you also have units from multiple agencies. I mean, the Houston Police Department, as well as Precinct 9 Constable's Office, Pasadena Police Department, Deer Park Police Department. You would think that the Harris County Sheriff's Department is in this one, as well as DPS.
That's correct, Jessica. And now I'm being told that they are going to try to put spikes up in the toll plaza. And one other point of information, we're talking about fuel on the aircraft. The HPD helicopter has now run out of fuel. They are replacing another aircraft that's coming to take its place.
Do we know if the first will stay until the second arrives?
Yes, the first one will stay until the second arrives.
And at least they also work out of Hobby? So
yeah, we are
close.
very near Hobby. Okay, he's coming through the toll plaza. Okay. Now that's an interesting point. They can't throw the spikes down in the toll plaza through the easy tag lane because they will flatten the tires of all the other vehicles. Why they didn't stop the toll plaza completely, I don't know.
We're told they did not have time.
Okay, they did not have time to do that.
Too fast.
But you saw officers there, right, through the toll plaza?
He went through there pretty quickly. I didn't get a good look at how many officers were through there, but obviously, okay, there's a boat apparently that's stopping up ahead, and we'll see how this. Okay, our pilot is able to see ahead up the Beltway here, and he's telling me that he's going to pass this boat, which is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there goes the boat right there.
It almost looks like that. Yeah, Dave, tell us your cross street. You're on eastbound on the Beltway, and where did you just pass?
We're coming up on Makawa now. Eastbound on the Beltway, coming up on Makawa. Several units still trying to catch up to him. HPD helicopter still overhead, and he's coming up on Makawa. He will be fast approaching the Gulf Freeway again. See what direction he goes on the Gulf Freeway. I know it's obviously difficult for the officers to figure out what direction he is going. They've tried to utilize that toll plaza back there, but they didn't have enough time, as you mentioned, Gina. And the ground units are trying to catch up to him. I'm going to widen out and see if anyone's close behind him. I don't see any ground units close behind him, but the helicopter is right overhead still. You
know, Dave, you mentioned earlier, too, at the toll plaza that oftentimes you see a lot of officers there, but it dawns on me that perhaps some of them had left those posts to go help in the pursuit during the times they thought they were close to being able to close them off.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That more than likely is definitely the situation. They probably did that to try to help the other agencies out here try to stop this vehicle.
Hey, Dave, how close are we to the Gulf Freeway?
He's still got a couple of miles before the Gulf Freeway. We just crossed Makawa. He's coming up on MLK now, and so he's still probably 3 miles from the Gulf Freeway, and still don't see any ground units behind him.
And is the HPD helicopter there? Is that the original one still, or have they switched it out?
Okay, right now the first helicopter has just left the scene. The second helicopter is coming, is apparently right under us, I'm being told by John.
Okay.
And so the HPD helicopter is back in service now. And we'll probably see them come into our shot here in a few minutes and stay over the top of this truck.
Dave, can you tell whether or not there's one more toll plaza before he reaches the Gulf Freeway?
I don't believe there is. I take the Beltway quite often, and I believe the toll plaza he just went through is the last one until you get on the other side of 45, to the best of my knowledge. So, you know, it's going to depend on whether or not he stays on the Beltway as to whether or not they can try to utilize the next toll plaza down there. It may be to their benefit, obviously, if he stays on the Beltway, so they can have the opportunity to do that. He's losing some stuff out of the back of the truck there.
Well, and if nothing else, I'm thinking, too, that lessens the chances of a bad accident because it's less crowded on, on the toll road than it is on 45.
Yeah, that's true. Obviously, 45, a constantly congested freeway, both north and southbound.
Especially southbound there, there's a lot of construction going on in the Clear Lake area. So you have to wonder if he will stay on the Gulf Freeway if he heads southbound, or if he'll just go back into the neighborhoods like he has for so much of this police chase.
Yeah, that's correct. He's approaching. Okay, he's approaching Blackhawk now, and they're blocking the road. I'm being told they're blocking the road. Okay, they tried to block that intersection, or the exit ramp rather, and he just went around that officer doing probably 65 miles per hour here. Probably 70, and he's still eastbound. Coming up on 45, across Blackhawk. And we are now due south of Hobby Airport. So we just crossed Telephone Road. Blackhawk's actually east of Telephone. Okay, they did try to shut the freeway down, but they did not have enough time.
And that, unfortunately, has been the refrain. It's just hard to get enough ahead of him. He's going so quickly to get a chance to put something in his way that will stop him.
Yeah, timing on this has been everything, and at the speeds that he's been driving, it's just been very difficult for the officers to find a spot to be able to stop him. And now, he's been on the freeways now for probably 20 minutes. Okay, we're approaching Gulf Freeway. A large portion of this chase went on through the Webster Clear Lake area.
In an armed robbery that took place, an hour and a half ago or so in the Pasadena area. Pasadena Police, then HPD, sheriff's deputies, probably other departments as well, have been pursuing.
Backing away and letting this guy hopefully calm down, slow down, and maybe he'll come to a stop someplace. The problem, of course, is he probably sees those helicopters pursuing him up there too. So each situation is very, very different, and anytime you try to impose some sort of protocol, once you start making rules up, you get out there in the field, the rules could well go out the window. They're a good guidebook, but each situation has to be handled differently. We've seen them handled very differently through the years.
And kind of ironic, Doug, if I can get in here, the truck driver now has passed under Old Red Bluff Road, and he's still on the Beltway, and that's where all this started, on Red Bluff, actually. And a couple months ago, I think it was a couple months ago, Doug, there was some very harsh criticism of the Houston Police Department, even from its own, about police chases. And there was a call for some kind of protocol to be instituted, some guidelines, so civilians wouldn't get hurt.
And that's always the concern. How far do you chase these guys? How long do you continue the pursuit? At what point is the potential danger to the public more problematic than the possibility of catching a suspect who's depending on what crime he's suspected of? You just don't know. That's the problem that law enforcement agencies face in this situation. And of course, there's another factor. I mean, let's face it. If you're a law enforcement officer and you're involved in one of these pursuits, you've got to be.
I feel like he lost any control. We've seen him swerve before.
I'm sorry, say again?
He has certainly swerved before. It does not look to me like he swerved that time.
Yeah, no, he swerved a little bit, but yeah, I don't think he hit the spikes. I don't see any of the tires flat here.
He looked like he was,
well, he's bouncing now.
Yeah,
it does look like he's kind of bobbing in the front now.
Yeah, does that front tire look flat?
The front driver's side tire is looking, there he goes. He's losing control now.
Yeah, he's going to lose control of the vehicle here at least.
And how close are ground units from him now? Are they right behind him?
Well, now that they've, they're not right behind him. They're still a good ways behind him, but the spikes obviously did work.
Yeah.
At least the front left tire is flat. Now, if he continues to go, he can drive on a rim, and just go ahead and keep driving until all the rubber comes off the tire and stay on a rim. You see a lot of sparks come out of this, but they have somewhat disabled the truck to slow it down, which should give the officers a better opportunity to catch up to him and box him in and stop him.
And also, it'll be harder for him to exit the freeway, so he'll be stuck on. There goes the rubber. Yeah,
there goes the rubber. He's strictly on a rim now. It looks like he's on an exit ramp.
Still not slowing, and we've seen him many times go off into the grass, but it will be really difficult now, just riding on a rim.
Yeah, because that used to be his advantage, traveling on the grass and through fields, and the police officers on the ground couldn't keep up with him. Now they certainly would be able to if they can get behind him pretty fast.
And he's slowing down pretty quickly. How fast do you think he's going now, Dave?
He's probably doing about 40 now. So he's still doing a fairly high speed on just a rim here. It wouldn't surprise me with as erratically as this truck has been going, this suspect. He'll keep going. He's going to hit a truck here.
There's a police officer right there on the scene as he hits that truck. Where are we?
Okay, we are.
And does it look like someone's in that red pickup truck?
Yeah, there's definitely someone in the red pickup. He's backed up into one of the police cars.
And he kept on going.
He's got actually 2 front tires are flat now. He's completely lost the rubber on the front left. Front right is flat. And the officers are going to try to box him in here and pull him over. He's moving into the field.
It's not going to work this time.
Losing control. We are along Highway 3 now at the Beltway. I'm sorry, Fairmont Parkway is where we are.
And he's been here one time before during this chase.
In fact, he has. That's true. And he's this is one of many times he's cut through a field here.
But before he had an advantage, he no longer has, because he's limping through the field now. He used to cruise through the field.
Yeah,
it does look like he's losing control.
He's maintaining control of the truck, considering the fact that he's riding on 2 front rims. He's coming in on oncoming traffic, southbound along the Beltway service road near Fairmont Parkway. He's hit several vehicles now through this chase, and we're going to lose down.
Looks like there's a bayou.
Okay, he's going to come out of this truck here. Officers will have to go into the water, it looks like, to get him out. They're going to be very careful here because they know he's armed. He's in a bayou. He's run into the bayou here. Staying in the truck so far.
Choosing to stay in the truck. The truck is smoking. You see the smoke coming from its front right.
He's in an interesting predicament here because Houston police officers are going to come up here in a second, guns drawn,
there they
demanding that he get out.
No one was hurt. I mean, no motorists, no innocent bystanders, shall we say, driving in cars, seem to have been seriously hurt, and that certainly has been our fear for the last almost 2 hours now, watching this chase go on.
Yeah, that's true. That's some of the best news that's come out of this, obviously, is that no one got hurt, considering the nature of this chase. And I believe he's still in the vehicle. We're just waiting to see officers come into the scene. They're obviously, okay, they're going to send a canine unit in after him. And you can see officers, guns drawn, being very cautious. They believe he still could be armed. And apparently he has not gotten out of the truck yet.
Looks like about 6 officers behind the vehicle there with guns drawn.
Guns drawn, supposed to be sending in a canine unit as well. Let's see if I can zoom in here.
You can still see him in there.
And he is definitely still in the truck.
You can see his hand on the wheel. We're told again, a white male in his 50s, they believe, a robbery suspect involved in a robbery of a cleaners in Pasadena.
That cleaners in the 5800 block of Red Bluff. At one time, we're told he fired shots at officers. Not sure if he is still armed. We did have some reports that he possibly threw out a pistol in southeast Houston as this police chase wound through that area.
They believe the actual pursuit began about 2:45, so we are now coming up an hour 45.
Okay, and they are being told that they may be shutting down the Beltway here, both directions.
And I saw units up on the Beltway, and obviously then you have police officers on the ground as well. And I saw the canine unit there on the left-hand side of the screen for a quick second.
Dave, what was the toll road where they put out the strip that obviously impaired his tires that led to him losing control and thus stuck in the...
That was the toll plaza east of 45, just north of Ellington, right before you get to the Fairmont Parkway exit, which is where he ended up exiting. We are near Fairmont Parkway in the South Beltway. They have closed off the Beltway. They may close off Fairmont Parkway. He's still in the vehicle. Several officers being very cautious. They've stayed a pretty good distance from the vehicle, probably 50 to 100 yards up on the embankment.
Well, especially since he has fired shots, even if they believe he threw a gun out, we don't know if he perhaps had more than one, so you don't want to approach that vehicle and risk one of your officers going down.
Okay, and you can see at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, 2 officers there.
And they're kind of crouching behind the barrier wall there as they get closer and closer to this truck. The suspect's still inside. We did see his hand on the steering wheel at a time. This is at Fairmont Parkway and the Beltway in Pasadena, almost where this chase started in the first place.
Okay, I believe we are right. Okay, we're north of Fairmont Parkway at the Beltway. We're still right along the southeast corner of the Beltway near Fairmont Parkway.
You can see those officers inching closer, now backing up.
Sides, yeah.
Okay, and they're asking us to get a little altitude here and back off a bit so they can try to talk to the suspect.
So that he can hear their voices over the hum of our helicopter.
Over the aircraft, correct. This obviously is going to turn into a standoff.
We can still zoom in, though, viewers, even when we are farther away in the sky, and that's what we just did there. That's why it looks like we moved in when we really didn't.
Okay,
you know, we've never been able to say whether there's a second person or not in the car, and it looks like no. It looks like only the one person whose hands we saw earlier on the steering wheel.
Yeah, that's correct. Looks like he's the only one, just the driver. Again, a white male, in his 50s apparently. He just stuck his hand out the window as well. I don't know if he was trying to signal to officers or not, or possibly dropping something out the window. They do not know whether or not he is still armed. They believe that he did toss a pistol through the course of the chase earlier, but obviously they have to take every precaution. They easily could still have another weapon in the vehicle. And this truck, basically, I'm going to widen out just a little bit to give folks at home a perspective on what we're looking at here. They've got the Beltway in both directions shut down. And all of those units.
You can see all those officers on the upper right-hand corner of your screen.
Yes, they
waiting.
They're using these barricades as protection here. They're probably 50 to 75 yards, excuse me, away from the truck. Now, whether or not they're able to talk to him, we don't know whether or not they can hear him or not, but they're going to try to start communicating with him.
And it did appear that he made some sort of signal, or he put his hand out the window for a quick second.
Just for a second. Made some kind of gesture to him. We don't know at this point whether or not they're actually able to hear him or not. He has not rolled his window down, just to point out. So obviously he's not making an attempt on his part to talk to him.
I was going to say, so many of these pursuits have become a source of controversy for the Houston Police Department, in part because of how they ended and how long they've gone on and to what extent motorists and residents have been put in danger. This one, as we mentioned earlier, having perhaps the best kind of outcome you could hope for, in the sense that there was no crash with another vehicle.
Absolutely. He just sideswiped a few vehicles throughout, but it didn't seem like anybody had been seriously injured, and that's really surprising considering this thing went on for so long and wound through so many streets, not just the highways, but also those neighborhood streets.
Yeah, the really surprising thing is that we did not see a major accident here. As you mentioned, he did hit a few vehicles.
You hate to overuse the word miraculous, but at times I thought that's what it was when I felt like he was just squeaking through the narrowest of passageways. Quickly, we're showing a double box right now. We're showing viewers how this all ended as the truck went into the water there underneath the Beltway. I'm sorry, Dave, but we had that shot up. I wanted to just explain what people were seeing. So on the top right-hand side of the screen, that is how this ended, and the bottom left-hand side of the screen is what's going on right now.
Because police were able to throw down some spike strips at a toll plaza eastbound on the Beltway. He hit those. His two front tires went flat. Took a few seconds.
Yeah, at first we didn't think they worked. But
absolutely, and then he started wobbling, and the tires went flat. Then he chose to go off the roadway and into this bayou or creek, not sure what body of water that is.
I'm sorry, Dave, could you go back to the point you were making before I had to narrate what viewers were seeing on the screen?
No, that's okay. We were, forget what we were talking about now,
okay.
As far as the location goes, near Fairmont Parkway and Vista. The point I was going to make is that for folks that live out in this area, they are shutting down both directions of the Beltway at Fairmont Parkway.
And you do see that one officer, it looks like he was trying to get closer, now is backing up, but almost very secretly trying to approach the truck.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the officer on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen is doing, obviously positioning himself to, if he needs to, take the suspect out if this turns into a situation where the suspect is, in fact, armed still. But there are several units off the top of your screen. I'll widen out and show you again.
Must be a couple dozen units there.
Yeah, and I just think all of these officers at some point were involved in this chase. This is how many people he had behind him trying to catch him.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And as we've said, it's amazing that nobody got seriously hurt in this as he was driving through all of that traffic.
It is. You know, Gina, you had mentioned the word miraculous. You've used it a few times, and we often use that word in chases. But, you know, when a chase lasts for, you know, an hour and 40 minutes,
right.
You know, cutting through several neighborhoods, school zones, apartment complexes, several cars scraped or sideswiped, one police unit hit, a pedestrian almost hit. It's thankful and just unbelievable no one was injured, and that it has at least calmed down and come to some kind of end at this point.
And they've decided that, and they'll try and open up some line of communication with this person to see if somehow maybe they can coax him out. But they are definitely not going to go anywhere near this vehicle right now because of that suspect already firing on police officers. So that's going to be the tough part. And as you're watching right now, they're setting up some type of their communication base right here on the hood of some of the police cars on the other side of the bridge. So we're going to keep watching that. Actually, we're going to try and get on the other side and get a little better vantage point. We'll come back to you, Bill.
Okay, Robert. The police officers, the closest ones, are only about 25 feet away from this truck. They have a direct view inside the truck. He's had the driver's side window down throughout the entire chase. So presumably the officers can see this individual, although we can't. But they can tell whether he's still seated, whether he's laying down on the seat, whether he's gone to the back seat, whether he's caused himself any harm. They would know all these things because they can see right into his vehicle. This is the end of a police chase that lasted some 2 hours, went through several different police jurisdictions, involved at least 5 police jurisdictions at one point. The officers who were in pursuit of him lost
standoff, but nobody really knows when this thing is going to end. A lot of activity down here. They are letting traffic trickle through on the Beltway here, but there are dozens and dozens of officers who are kind of just securing the area right now. Obviously, they don't know what this guy's intentions are. They don't know what he has with him in terms of weaponry or anything like that. We did see a pistol, or we heard that a pistol was thrown out of the window a little bit earlier. As you've been mentioning, this guy could have more weapons with him, and so at this time, it looks like they're secure to, or they're deciding to let this guy kind of wait himself out, and they've got the area secure. This guy's not going anywhere. It's just turning into a waiting game right now.
It's like you're walking. Are you walking towards the scene, or are they making you go farther back?
I am across the street. I'm across the Beltway on the other side of where the accident took place.
And is that as close as they're letting you go?
Well, this scene is unfolding so quickly. People, they're trying to keep traffic away in all directions. They're stopping the traffic as much as they can, but we were able to kind of slip through a strip center and get through the back ramp, and we were able to get back on the feeder. So, basically we are now on the eastbound side of the Beltway, and they're keeping us at length here. We can't even really get close to the center lane. I think the press is just basically respecting what these officers need to do in terms of space. But I can see over there's a lot of people standing around and just waiting.
Yeah, we can see that they have the Beltway closed off in both directions. I know that prohibits you from getting much closer. Mark, can you stand by for a moment while we check in with Dave?
Sure.
Dave Garrett?
Yes, Gina, go ahead.
Okay. Anything that has changed from your vantage point from above?
One thing that has changed is they have called off the HPD helicopter. They've been given the all clear to go ahead and go home. So the helicopter is no longer overhead. Obviously, they're not in a position where they need them at this point. We ourselves are going to go for fuel here soon, around 5 o'clock, and come back. Our second helicopter, Sky I-2, is right overhead as well. But not much has changed from our position. Still watching the officers gather just on this side of the truck, on this side of the embankment, and
the one on his belly in the grass, is he moving closer or staying put?
It looks like he's gotten a little bit closer to the road. He's for the most part staying put, buried in this brush here. And again, they still think that the suspect may still be armed.
Which also could be part of why they're keeping Mark Garay back at a safe distance.
Yeah, that and clearing out the Beltway here.
Mm-hmm. And you have dozens of officers there, with many of them with their guns drawn, obviously closing off the Beltway. Not sure how this is all going to end. We want to take you back earlier in this police chase when the suspect, a white male in his 50s, drove through a golf course in Pearland, the Country Place Golf Club. He was driving over the fairway, almost hit a sand trap, just going on to the golf cart path right now. Never seen that before, a suspect trying to elude police on a golf course. But this is where he had the advantage. We keep on talking about this because he's in that pickup truck and he's able to drive over these fields rather easily, while the police officers haven't been able to follow him very closely. In this case, they were able to follow him just on Country Place Road right next to him, but he stayed on the grassy area through this golf course, as then he hit a pebble, or a gravel road, I should say, and then got back out into open road.
Hearing out, these are SWAT officers with the Pasadena Police Department. They're getting your communication gear together, get his bulletproof vest on before he goes over and joins the rest of his team members. We also have SWAT officers here from the Houston Police Department and other tactical officers from the Harris County Sheriff's Department. As you've been seeing from up top, from News Chopper 2, you do have officers that are seeing into that truck. They're watching every move that this man is making, because one of the most puzzling things is he so desperately for 2 hours, threw caution to the wind, sideswiped several cars, shot at police officers, did everything he could to get away, and once he landed in this ditch, now he hasn't moved. So the police are going to be very cautious about how they approach this vehicle, but the officers that are surrounding it right now are there to make sure that he doesn't make any move, any type of aggressive moves. Once they get all the teams in place, then they'll start trying to talk to this man, for at least to try and establish some kind of line of communication with him to determine, if he's going to eventually give up or if he's going to continue to fight like he has throughout this entire chase. More of the officers that are coming in right now are going to start breaking up into smaller tactical units, and they'll be taking up different positions, backing up those that are already on the ground right now. Now, they've let this one side of the Beltway, they've left it open so at least the cars can get through the area, but the other side is going to remain blocked off, because this is where the officers are going to have to set up. This is going to be, for lack of a better term, their base of operation right now. We've also got a K-9 unit over here that's just come on scene as well. They were trying to figure out a way to use the K-9 units when that man went into the ditch, but have decided to back off of that at this point. Bill?
Okay, Robert, one of the things, Robert, that, as you know, the SWAT teams try to look for is some sort of negotiating leverage. And you may have heard us mention a while ago, he has tinted windows in this truck, so he's rolled them up, and he's inside the cab of this truck with probably 125, 130 degrees of heat inside there, and that works to the SWAT team's advantage, does it not?
Well, yes, exactly. You would think that would eventually start playing a part and wearing on this man, but the desperation that he's shown, the number of cars that he sideswiped, shooting at the different officers, he's not going to give up anytime soon. He's shown that, and the fact that when he dove into that ditch, he's made no attempt to even try and get out. So it's going to be quite a while before they're able to resolve the situation. Police are able to resolve this situation, and given as desperate as this man is, no telling how long he can hold out.
Robert,
and they've cut off the roads there. Can you tell us what...
Yeah, which directions are cut off right now, and which direction is still flowing down the Beltway?
Well, both directions of the Beltway here. We're probably about a mile from the Spencer Highway Pine Street exit, and both directions of the Beltway have now been shut down. They wanted to alleviate some of the backup, but now they've shut it down again, because until this is over, this is going to be the main base of operations for the SWAT officers and all the different agencies out here trying to resolve this situation.
Have you seen a SWAT command truck come there to take control of the situation yet? That'll be the next step, though.
Not yet. Exactly. Right now, they're keeping the perimeter formed to keep an eye on this gentleman to see exactly what he's going to do and make sure they can watch his every move.
Okay, thank you very much. Robert Arnold standing by live there on the scene of the Beltway in Pasadena as this drama unfolds. The man who is inside that truck, as you may have heard us say already, has fired at a police officer. He has run into a police officer. But there is a briefing in progress. We're going to listen in on the telephone here.
This event, the suspect is reported to have fired one shot at the police car and did touch the window.
So this man was known to have robbed a number of establishments. There was something of a stakeout going on here?
No, it was not a stakeout. It was just a matter of another robbery having been reported, and the detective heard the information over the police radio.
What is happening right now?
What is happening right now is that the police are still negotiating with the suspect, attempting to get him to surrender. He's sitting in his vehicle and has a gun in hand. Has periodically, in the course of this event, pointed the gun at his head and his mouth. And as a matter of fact, right now, the officer has just asked the suspect to put the gun down.
How is he communicating with you? Verbally, or is there a cell phone? How is he communicating?
Well, I heard the officer ask the suspect to roll the window down, so it sounds like that the officer is communicating with a bullhorn, and the suspect is presumably just talking out the window.
What kind of firepower do you have around him? I see there's a lot of guys with high-powered rifles, it appears.
Well, these are members of the sniper team that's associated with our SWAT unit, and they are trained on the suspect in the event that things go awry.
How many people do you have out there on him?
I don't know the exact number. I mean, you can see what I can see, so whatever that number is.
At this point, the entire freeway is blocked off.
Well, I'm sorry. How long can it go on? I mean, this will go on as long as we have to. I mean, we want the suspect to surrender without any injuries to the police, to the suspect, or anybody else.
And Captain, it looks as though the entire freeway is blocked off at this point. Is that right?
Well, it's been blocked off periodically. The feeder is certainly blocked off completely, but the main freeway is being opened from time to time by other officers who are allowing a trickle of traffic to go through as much as possible.
Wondering how uncomfortable it's going to get for him over there. Is his truck on? Is the air conditioning on? Or is he sitting there in the heat?
He's probably sitting there in the heat, considering his vehicle is submerged, probably up to the top of the grill.
Thank you, Captain Corbett. Appreciate it very much. That is Captain Bud Corbett of the Pasadena Police Department, who is obviously keeping up with the scene over there. The man, obviously despondent, wanted, if we were to read the information correctly, in connection with the number of robberies of these establishments, such as the one that Vicente Arenas visited just a moment ago. And again, the man over there, inside that bayou over there, his truck partially submerged. He apparently is threatening to commit suicide, has had his gun inside his mouth. We've been hearing periodically calls from that bullhorn, people saying, as I scribbled down a few quotes, words to the effect of, "Come on, man, help me out. Take the gun out of your mouth and start a conversation." Clearly, they're trying to talk this man into surrendering at this point. But you can see there the snipers, members of the sniper team, obviously very much on guard, just in case the man points his gun in another direction. We will keep you posted from here as we get more information. But that is everything that we have to report from the ground here. Perhaps you can see something more from the air in that direction, Lennon and Lisa.
All right, Doug, thank you. I just had one other question. You were asking the captain whether there was a stakeout, and he said no, but it sounds like they were just alerted because there was another robbery, not necessarily because it was this individual, but because there have been several robberies, correct?
Yeah, that's the impression that I got, and you heard everything I heard, but I am assuming that it was simply a matter of a police officer on patrol in a certain area. Obviously, one of the advantages of having a good beat police officer is that he knows about the crimes that have been committed in his area. It sounds as though there were a number of robberies of similar establishments in that vicinity, and he heard about this one, and that's how the chase began.
And Doug, if that were the case, and this gentleman does turn out to be a suspect in a number of robberies, that would be a motive for him to run off as he has.
You'd think so. One other question that is very much on my mind at this point as to whether this man has a criminal record. Obviously, if he has a couple of other convictions behind him, he may have a motive for not surrendering at this point, because after a number of convictions, he could be sentenced to a very lengthy or life prison term. So that could be something else that's playing into this. We just don't know. All that we know is right now is this man is apparently a suspect in a number of robberies of establishments in that area, and a police officer just happened to be alert enough to make the connection and headed over in that direction, and that's how all of this started in the middle of this afternoon.
Yeah, Doug, and the other thing is, I mean, this guy may, if he's had prior convictions, he may have done some time, and a lot of times guys don't want to go back. The other thing is, do we have any sense of what kind of shape, not mentally, obviously the guy's distraught, but is physically, because he drove around for a long time and hit cars and went through ravines, and do you have any sense of that?
That's exactly the question that someone posed just a few moments ago. Is it hot inside that truck? Is the engine running? Is his air conditioner running? We don't have any idea about his physical condition. He's obviously sitting inside that vehicle. One question would be whether he's been physically injured at this point. We were able to go by the scene of the accident where someone, where this man actually struck another vehicle, struck a red pickup truck, a Dodge pickup truck, and we talked to the woman who was driving that car. She didn't see it coming. Let's listen to what she had to say. Can you tell me what happened here?
I was driving, and whoever they were chasing hit me from the side.
So you're just minding your own business, and this guy blows through the intersection here, huh?
Pretty much.
What were you thinking when that happened?
It scared me because I really didn't know what was going on until I saw the cop cars and got out of my truck, and then I knew they were chasing somebody.
So how fast were they going? What did it look like?
I don't know, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour, I don't know.
So it's really hard for that woman to tell. She had her 5-year-old son with her at the time, and her 5-year-old son apparently was fine. Everybody seemed fine. There was an ambulance that left the scene, but that ambulance apparently came simply to check out, make sure that nobody was hurt. Fortunately, nobody was hurt there at that location. Obviously, one of the concerns of the police officers in this situation is to make sure that no one is hurt, to sort of limit the damage, so to speak, and that's what they're trying to do at this very point with that gunman inside the ditch at the scene, the ditch that he rolled into, or however you'd like to describe it, on his rims going into that body of water. They're trying to talk him into giving up right now, and it's a negotiation, and that is what we have underway right now. Police officers with bullhorns trying to talk that man, that lone man with a gun, into surrendering.
All right, Doug, we just saw you were talking with Pasadena Captain Bud Corbett with the Pasadena Police Department, and I would assume that Pasadena Police would still be the lead agency in this because it started in their jurisdiction and the whole thing started with a chase with them, but we've seen several different law enforcement agencies down there on the ground. Can you tell me a little bit about the different agencies you see or you saw while you were following along?
I can tell you that we saw a number of agencies. I believe we saw a DPS trooper, we saw a constable vehicle, obviously a number of Pasadena police vehicles. Here at the scene, we are seeing all Pasadena police vehicles, one county constable's vehicle, Harris County Constable vehicle, leaving the scene. It looks like at this point this is, from our perspective at least, entirely a Pasadena police operation. Obviously, their sniper team is on the scene and their negotiators are on the scene. This looks like it is entirely right now a Pasadena police situation. A far cry from what we saw earlier, whenever we saw many police vehicles. I can't tell you how many police vehicles involved in the pursuit of the suspect, who is now underneath this freeway bridge. Looks like the entire freeway, Beltway 8, blocked off here near Fairmont Parkway. So obviously it looks like it's going to be, it could well be a very long evening here as they try to talk this man into surrendering.
To use the telephone. He was talking to somebody on the phone, is what I understand, and she had turned her back and went in the back area, I presume, and when he came back, he was taking the money out of the register.
Did he say he was a customer?
No, he was asking about pricing.
Asking about pricing, then he takes off from here, and of course, you know what happens after that. Also, just got off the phone with the Pasadena Police Department, which says that there are a number of robberies being investigated. It is unclear if any other Queen Oaks cleaners have been hit. The owner did tell me this afternoon that others had not been robbed. We're still trying to clear up, I should say, some conflicting information. I'm checking with the Pasadena Police Department, and as soon as I have more information, I'll be bringing that to you here in just a few moments. Lisa and Lynn, back to you.
All right, Vicente, thanks. So this was the one Queen Oaks cleaners that we know that was on Red Bluff that was hit by this suspect, and getting a better picture of a possible motive for why this suspect ran. We learned earlier during a live news conference with Pasadena Police Captain Bud Corbett that there have been some robberies in that area. There was a detective driving around and heard about this particular robbery in progress and put two and two together thinking, wow, this sounds similar, headed over that way. We know that the suspect had showed a gun to the dry cleaner attendant, the woman who was there, who was 82 years old, and some kind of shots exchanged, and then the chase began. And again, you are seeing highlights, should we say, there of the chase there on the right side of your screen.
Captain Corbett, again, could you tell us what exactly is happening with the suspect, how they're trying to communicate with him, how he is communicating back with them?
Okay, you want me to start over?
If you would, please. Yeah.
Okay, sure. The officer is communicating with the suspect verbally by use of a bullhorn, but the suspect is not responding verbally. What he has done, though, is roll the window up and down and acknowledge or make a sign with his hand that he can hear what the officer is saying. And the officer's primary focus at the moment is to try to get the suspect to take the gun out of his mouth.
Very good. Thank you very much, Captain Bud Corbett with the Pasadena Police Department, informing us of exactly how they're communicating with this man. Actually, that may sound discouraging in some respects, but it is an encouraging sign, because the first thing a negotiator tries to do in this situation is to establish some sort of communication, some sort of rapport. I've talked with SWAT negotiators over the years who've said if you can just get a guy to pick up the phone and say hello, that's a very big step. And in effect, they've done that here. They've got this guy responding to them. them. He's rolling down the window, using hand gestures, we're told, whatever, to try to communicate. There's some sort of communication going on. That an encouraging sign for the police officers who are trying to talk to this man who has a gun, who is down there inside his car that is inside the bayou. So they apparently have established some sort of communication. The next step, of course, trying to get him to talk to them and to get him to realize that he just might want to walk away from there and surrender. Captain Corbett, you're saying what? He's doing what at this point?
I'll answer that in just a second.
What is he doing at this point? He has been communicating in other ways besides rolling the window down and so on.
The only way he has communicated with the police officer is by virtue of rolling his window down and acknowledging with his hand that he can hear what the officer's saying.
Captain,
but he's been writing something, is that right?
Family members to come and help you with these negotiations?
I don't know if that's been done or not. That's usually part of the course of events in a situation like this.
Captain, you said something about a note. What were you saying about a note?
The witnesses, that is the negotiators and the other officers in the immediate area, observed what they appeared to think was the officer writing a note. I'm sorry, let me do that one again. The officer observed him engaged in what appeared to be writing a note, but the officer does not know the content of the note or if there actually was one. But it just appeared to be that, and they're passing information on that.
That would indicate he's put the gun down, is that right?
That the primary focus of the contact right now is to get the suspect to put the gun down. Because most of the time while he's talking to the officer, he's had the gun in his mouth.
If he's writing a note, that would indicate he put the gun down. Is that what you're hearing?
I don't know that he put the gun down. He may have moved the gun away from his mouth. But as far as I know, he hasn't removed the gun from his hand.
Do we know about any injuries?
This man over here had a question. I need to... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Any injuries along the way to this point?
I was told that one of the officers involved in pursuit was involved in a major accident, a major indicating that someone was hurt. I don't know if it was the officer or somebody else. And I don't know about the condition of it.
Does the driver appear to be hurt in any way, given that he crashed his truck?
There wasn't any comment made about any indication that he was injured. It's a possibility he was, but it could not have been, seriously considering what the officers have seen at this point.
Very good. Thank you, Captain Corbett. Again, Captain Bud Corbett of the Pasadena Police Department, who's been listening in on the negotiations over there, but he's about as far away from it as we are. He gets a bit closer at times and can hear a thing or two that we can't hear from our vantage point. One of the things that he passed on to us a moment ago, just before you came to us live, was that this guy apparently has been writing a note. They don't know what is inside the note. They don't know what he's doing, but as you heard me mention, it would indicate that perhaps he's put the gun down, which would be good news. It is indeed very good news. The man is somehow communicating with the police officers, but obviously they're very concerned about what he might be writing down as they observe what he's doing inside that car. The sniper team still on the scene here, still trying to find out what exactly is going to happen next. We will keep you posted from here.
Between the police and the suspect, there has been some communication, but it's been very limited on the part of the suspect. At this point, all the suspect has done is roll his window down and acknowledge with his hand that he can hear what the officer's saying. The officer's focal point at the moment is to try to get the suspect to put his gun down, which has been in his mouth most of the time.
Okay. When you said that's the only communication is he can hear them, we were hearing something about writing some kind of note.
He did appear to be writing a note of some kind, but they don't, that is, the officers don't know what the content was.
Okay, so he hasn't thrown it out of the window trying to communicate that way?
He has not.
Okay, have you identified this man?
No, in fact, I checked about 10 minutes ago, and at this point, they still do not know his identity.
Okay. We understand, how's the officer who was injured in that accident during this chase?
I really don't know for sure. I understand that an officer was involved in a major accident, but quite frankly, I don't know with any degree of certainty whether the officer was injured in the course of this wreck or somebody else was.
We understand this man also being wanted for other robberies other than the one that started all this today. Do you know how many he's wanted for?
He's a suspect in about 4 robberies since the last week of June.
What type of robberies? Have they all been like cleaning stores or convenience stores? Or
no, there hasn't really been a specific pattern necessarily, but it's primarily a resemblance from one case to another on the description and partial license numbers of the vehicle.
So is that really, other than the robbery at the cleaner, did somebody recognize him that really sparked this off as well?
It wasn't a matter of necessarily recognizing as being involved in another robbery. The description, offers some similar aspects, and the police responded to that.
Okay. And where exactly, I mean, we know where the cleaners start. Where did the officers first pick up the pursuit, and when did he first take off?
I don't know exactly where it started. I think that it was on Pasadena Boulevard in Deer Park, but the exact location on that street I don't know.
And he hasn't said anything at all to the officers other than keeping the gun in his mouth or the hand so that he can hear them.
As of about 10 minutes ago, he had not.
Okay. I mean, how long? I mean, at what point have you got a loudspeaker down there, a microphone, anything like that, or is it just verbal still?
Well, it's verbal, but the officers have been communicating with and without the bullhorn.
Thank you again. That was Pasadena Police Captain Bud Corbett. As we have been telling you before, there hasn't been a lot of talk back and forth between the suspect, excuse me, it's dusty out here, and the SWAT negotiator. Again, that note that we mentioned probably about 30 minutes ago, suspect never threw it out of the window, so they don't know what that was about. Right now, as we've been telling you, he's just keeping police at bay by keeping that gun in his mouth or under his chin. Bill, Wendy?
Okay, Robert, thank you very much. That's Robert Arnold. He's live on the scene there, talking with Captain Corbett, who had held the briefing that we listened in on earlier, telling us that, giving us the new information that this individual is a suspect in at least 4 robberies since the latter part of June, because the robberies, even though they differed in some aspects, were similar enough to make them think that this guy who pulled off this robbery this afternoon in Pasadena also pulled off 4 others in a very brief period of time here, just about the last 30 days or so. It certainly seems that way because of the way that he's conducted himself this afternoon, using stolen license plates so that he couldn't be readily identified by anybody who happened to see him driving away, and gave police the license plate number. Also, by the way he conducted the police chase, he's carefully thought out what he would do in given circumstances, up to and including the one he finds himself in now, actually not find himself in, but has put himself in, which is a deadly standoff with police here, potentially deadly standoff with police, where he would either shoot himself or they him. But his most dangerous move has been here, brandishing that gun even at himself, because, and we can see the door, Wendy, of his truck is open now, or it appears to be, because as long as he has a gun in his hand, he is a direct threat to police officers, and they will not, believe me, hesitate to shoot him if that gun moves in their direction.
That is one new thing that we can notice
right
here.
there at the
Absolutely, from this live picture here, and even though the SWAT protocol has our helicopter positioned further away, the door is open. The door of the driver's side of that pickup truck is open.
And there's a police officer right there at the truck too, right in the back, probably close enough where he can talk, but where he's behind, you can see him right behind the bed of the pickup. And now I see, you can almost see somebody.
You see a whole grouping of them, of the police officers that came down the embankment, and it looks like they even have like a shield holding. You see that shield there?
Yeah.
That's
it looks like they've moved in on the truck here, and they may have negotiated. See the officer moving back up now, the embankment, but then to the right, just on the other side of that little grassy knoll, just beyond which you can see the open door of the pickup. I saw 2 or 3 officers moving towards the truck there. So apparently,
it seems that their efforts then to communicate with him are moving forward.
I can almost guarantee that he's put that gun down, because if he hadn't, you wouldn't see the officers that close to the truck.
Yeah, there's no way they would be that comfortable with
Look,
moving
now
that
everybody's
close.
scattering, walking away. I think they've got this guy in custody. Yep, obviously they do, because everybody's walking away
With their back to the.
We see some officers moving to the other side. We see some officers moving to the other side.
Language. This has now come to a successful conclusion. They have the man in custody because the men are walking away here as we begin here at the top of the hour. This is KPRC Local 2 at 6 o'clock, KPRC in Houston, as we identify ourselves for legal reasons. And our 6 o'clock news just beginning here as this drama comes to an end. An aggravated robbery suspect now in the custody of police officers. He has given himself up. Even though we did not see the surrender because we were ordered to move our helicopter back, we can tell by the way that the police are conducting themselves here on the scene that the man is now in custody.
Gentleman wearing a dark short sleeve blue shirt, some dark pants. We saw him walking up out of the the ditch where his truck was. You see the back of his head there as he talks with Pasadena Police. That's a Pasadena Police vehicle there.
There he is now.
They're walking him there to put him into a squad car, and finally, 3 hours after this began, finally bring this to a conclusion.
And we were wondering earlier if they had an idea of who the gentleman was, and because they probably got a beat on it. Look, the officers are congratulating each other for a job well done, and they deserve it. This ended with, considering how long this has lasted, it ended with no serious injuries that we are aware of. And the suspect who fired a shot, who robbed a store, who showed a gun to a store owner, to a dry cleaner owner in Pasadena shortly after 3 o'clock. He's now in custody, and police, you see, are talking to him. So the communications that were going on between the negotiators
to that effect, and he rolled his window down from time to time. And again, the focal point, probably for the past hour or more, has been to try to get the suspect to put the gun down, and he finally has.
Kind of recount again exactly what finally led up to surrendering.
I don't know exactly what took place just a moment before, because I was here with you folks, but when I understand, he at one point did get out of the vehicle. He walked up the embankment toward the SWAT officers with his hands up. He made a comment to the effect of, "Shoot me." Of course, the officers chose not to do that, and they took him in custody without further incident.
How are they doing?
I don't have any details on that specific aspect, but they took him into custody and handcuffed him in the normal way.
Captain, at this point, do we have any idea what was behind this guy's run from the law?
Well, I understand that the plates on the vehicle were stolen, and he is a suspect possibly involved in multiple robberies in Pasadena and perhaps other surrounding areas.
Obviously, when stuff like this comes up, you talk about the pursuit policy. Why wasn't this guy taken out any earlier?
Well, I don't know exactly, what was done in every step of the way, but it was just a matter of, having to deal with the environment and constantly evaluating the facts and the risks as in the course of the chase. And when the opportunity presented itself, we did get cooperation from Precinct 8, who was able to put down the spike, which assisted in stopping the vehicle. And that incident occurred at the nearest toll booth, and brought the thing to an end where we are now.
Jeff, if you can hear us, if you could ask the officer about the identity of the man, if he yet knows who this is.
Certainly, I'll get a chance.
Halfway up the embankment toward the SWAT officers, made that statement, and then basically surrendered.
Captain, do we know who this man is at this point?
We may know at this point, but I didn't know as of 15 minutes ago.
He didn't put up any fight at all.
He did not.
All right, that is the very latest from the scene out here on the East Belt. I'm told that we're probably going to have to move rather quickly because the Beltway is going to be opened up now that the scene is clear. As you can see, that obviously authorities are starting to break down now. This is one of the SWAT team officers who had this suspect in his sights this entire time, obviously ending exactly the way that the Pasadena Police wanted this to end.
Why don't we move down to the East Plaza, and we'll give you all a sound bite from that deputy. Okay?
All right, and you're with Precinct 8, is that correct? You're about to open up the Beltway, is that right?
We're fixing to open up the tollway. We've had traffic blocked for quite a while, and we want to get the roadway open. We'll meet you down at the East Plaza.
And just real quickly, it was one of your constables that put out the spikes, is that right?
That is correct.
How was he able to do that? Can you kind of give us a little bit of background?
Let me meet with you down there. We got cars coming up.
You're ready to open up the Beltway, I understand. So obviously, they're going to open up the Beltway. Our truck is parked on the Beltway. We're going to need to go ahead and move at least back down to the tollway while authorities go ahead and reopen the Beltway. But at this point, the suspect is in custody. He surrendered on his own power after the police have been negotiating with him for the better part of an hour or so. Reporting live, Jeff Ealing, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. Good work out there. And Dave Garrett just revealed a few minutes or so ago that they had more information about who the suspect was. And the officer just mentioned that he'd been involved in, and they suspect, 2 prior robberies. Dave, can you tell us more about that?
That's correct, Gina. At least 2 other robberies, both in Alvin, one on July 20th, one on the 19th, one at a Pilgrim's Cleaners, another at a Dollar Tree, both taking place between 1 and 2 p.m. The robbery that he's wanted for off of 225 that sparked the chase this afternoon happened around 2 o'clock as well, I believe somewhere between 2 and 2:45. The chase lasted for about an hour and 40 minutes, as you know, all over southeast Houston through the Pasadena, Webster, Clear Lake area. He was driving completely erratically, hit several vehicles. We have some video, in fact, of the suspect striking a red truck, sideswipe a red truck. Right there is the video right before he hits that truck. Eventually, as the officers have mentioned, they were able to throw spikes down at a toll plaza just past Highway 3. They were able to flatten the two front tires, which crippled the truck and brought it to rest in Little Bayou right here at the East Belt between Vista and Fairmont Parkway. And as Jeff has said, and obviously here, he has given up, and they do have him in custody. That is him in the back seat of this police cruiser. They are at a point now where they're going to start to clear out traffic. I'm going to widen out and give you a better perspective here. There were several units, 10, 15, possibly even 20 units involved in this chase. They have now opened up northbound lanes on the Beltway. They will eventually open up the southbound lanes on the Beltway very soon here. So you start to see traffic flow in both directions on the Beltway. Also, some of the neighboring streets from Vista to Fairmont Parkway, Crenshaw, Genoa, Red Bluff down to Highway 3. The traffic will start to lighten up now as soon as they reposition all these officers and open up all of the roadways. That is the vehicle here. That is the white truck that we have been following all afternoon. Again, the chase lasting about an hour and 40 minutes to come to an end here off the East Belt in Little Bayou. And again, the suspect is now in custody after a standoff this afternoon. For
now, Dave, you had a perfect vantage point when he turned himself in. Can you describe what happened?
Well, to be honest with you, Melanie, they had put us adhering to the SWAT standoff protocol. They had pushed us back a mile, and we were at about 1,800 feet trying to get as much altitude as we could. We were zoomed in as much as we could, and it seemed fairly quick. The standoff lasted quite a while, and then at some point he just decided to go ahead and give himself up. He got out of the truck. We were trying to get video of that, but we did not. We did eventually get video of him as soon as the SWAT team allowed us to get closer. We could see the officers walking him to the back of this unit. But,
that's what we're looking at right now, the video of him walking to the back of the unit.
Yeah, that is the video that happened just a few minutes ago of them walking the suspect to the unit, and it happened fairly quickly, so we weren't actually able to get it on video of him giving up. We could just barely see the top of the truck that he was driving, so we could not physically see him get out of the vehicle, but that is the video that we were able to catch when they allowed us to get closer to the scene. And now we are, of course, right on top of the vehicle, back now live. He's in the back seat of this police cruiser. Of course, they're going to question him and take him to an area facility, and just thankfully things have ended peacefully here off of the East Belt between Vista and Fairmont Parkway.
That walk actually was so calm that we didn't quite realize that that's what we were seeing, the suspect giving himself up. It almost looked like officers were just merely walking toward the back of the vehicle. We saw movement at the top of the newscast, and that was, in fact, the suspect surrendering.
That's right, and perhaps the only hint was the fact that there were so many officers surrounding him. Suddenly there was a huge crowd of people around him, and there was some indication that perhaps there had been a major break in that case.
Well, as you have heard, the chase at many times put several people in danger. One person actually almost run down by the out-of-control driver. Continuing our team coverage, Eyewitness News reporter Jessica Willey.
I first caught up with the truck police were chasing in the Pasadena area near 225. It was in a residential neighborhood with no patrol units in sight on the ground, but a police helicopter following the truck in the air, twisting and turning. The truck then turned not onto another street, but into a wide open field. The helicopter was close by, and several patrol cars were in the field. The driver passed so close to an officer, it appears the officer fired, but the suspect driver just kept going. He almost lost control of his vehicle, but once back on the road, going fast, he was blowing through intersections into oncoming traffic, then heading towards Kemah, the Webster area. West on Bay Area Boulevard, he turned into yet another field and then into a church parking lot. All of that just in the first 45 minutes. Patrol units were often close, but never close enough to put an end to the chase. That turned yet again into an open field, running parallel to Highway 3, heading south and back to Bay Area Boulevard. The driver cuts through what appears to be an apartment parking lot. As the driver continues, he avoids a head-on collision, but bumps a patrol car and still gets away. Then it was back to the easement of Highway 3, finally getting to the road and turning south on the highway. It wasn't long before the driver made it to the Gulf Freeway, speeding north on the shoulder, blowing by other drivers. Eventually eastbound on the belt, law enforcement tried to stop the driver heading through a toll plaza. Look closely, and just a minute later, you can see the front tires flattened. That didn't keep the driver from stringing this out to the very end, crashing right into another truck, backing up and still desperately trying to get away with officers right behind him. It would only take about another minute for this chase, almost 2 hours long, to come to a crashing end.
And just to pick up where Jessica left off, we have highlighted the shot of the suspect there being led to the back of the police vehicle. Again, the shot is the back, from the back of his head. You can't see very well because we had to be kept at a far distance because SWAT teams were in control of this scene there. But you can see him clearly in the center with an officer. Kind of, it looks as though their arms are interwoven there. And he now is in the back of the police vehicle. Apparently, he made a comment about just shoot me, please.
That's right, and obviously officers didn't want to do that. We want to show you this video once again. He did T-bone at least one red truck here. We did see him sideswipe several vehicles, but this is one he hit head on. This is very near the end when both of his tires are gone, front tires are gone. What we have since learned is that there was a 24-year-old woman and her 7-year-old son inside that truck. In fact, the 7-year-old son was sitting on the side that was directly hit by his truck. We are happy to report that both of them were not seriously injured. We don't know the full extent of their injuries, but we are told they were not seriously injured, thankfully. And as far as we know, there were no other serious injuries in this chase. And Gina, you know, so often that is not the case when we have chases like this. Well, we are continuing to follow this developing story, and we're going to bring you the very latest later on in our
26 News at 9. News that works for you.
It started out as an armed robbery and quickly escalated into a dangerous game of catch me if you can. Police cruisers held their own on the pavement, but proved no match for the driver's four-wheel drive pickup when the action went off-road. Finally, after 90 minutes and 2 counties, splashdown. But it wasn't over yet. The chasing game became the waiting game.
Until he surrendered, there was no dialogue between the officer, the negotiator, and the suspect.
Then from jeopardizing the lives of drivers to begging officers to take his life.
The suspect got out of the vehicle that he's been in. He walked about halfway up the embankment toward the SWAT officers, put his hands up, made a comment to the effect of shoot me.
That high-speed chase is just one of 3 big stories we're following.
We've got a lot to cover tonight, including the hunt
after a
for
robbery suspect drove his pickup off Beltway 8 near Fairmont Parkway. That started a standoff that lasted another hour and a half. Christina Garza is covering this story tonight. Christina, this all started at a dry cleaner's?
Yes, it did. And actually, that dry cleaners is not that far from where we are. That chase ended, though, right in this ditch behind me, right underneath the southbound lanes of the East Sam Houston Tollway between Fairmont Parkway and Vista. All we know at this hour about the suspect is that he was wanted in a series of armed robberies here in the Pasadena area that took place since late June. It was a fairly peaceful surrender after all, but it doesn't sound like the suspect wanted it that way.
He opened the door of his vehicle, he got out, he walked about halfway up the embankment toward the SWAT officers that were in contact with him. He had his hands in the air, he made a comment to the effect of shoot me, and of course the officers did not do that. There was no call for it.
For nearly 2 hours, SWAT officers kept their guns pointed at the driver of this partially submerged pickup truck as the Pasadena police officer tried to reason with him through a loudspeaker. This after the driver apparently threatened to kill himself on numerous occasions.
And he has periodically in the course of these negotiations been pointing the gun at his head and at least at one point in his mouth.
It all started after the suspect walked into the Queen Oaks dry cleaners here on Red Bluff in Pasadena. Employee Alex Peña wasn't there at the time, but his coworker was.
He came in asking for some dry cleaning prices, you know, and she gave it to him, and then he asked if he can borrow the phone. So he got the phone and ripped the cord off the wall and asking for the money and stuff.
The armed suspect left in his white pickup truck, but when he noticed police were on his trail, he simply refused to stop. During the hour-and-a-half high-speed chase through southeast Houston, police say the suspect fired his weapon, at one time hitting a patrol car. That officer wasn't hurt, but another one was, after crashing his unit while trying to catch up to the suspect. It wasn't until the driver reached the Beltway near Crenshaw that police were able to blow out his tires. The driver had no choice but to stop, and he did so after driving into this creek between Fairmont Parkway and Vista. And again, that suspect is currently being held at the Pasadena City Jail. We're live in Pasadena. I'm Christina Garza, Fox 26.
Now, live, local to you, Night Beat.
Caught on tape, a determined and desperate driver leading police on a wild ride through 2 counties, putting not only officers, but innocent drivers in danger. And then finally, the crashing in that then became the beginning of a terrifying standoff.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dominique Soxa.
And I'm Bill Baeza. For hours, we watched the frightening scene unfold. The chase, crash after crash, even bullets flying. Now tonight, we're learning more about the man at the center of it all. He's now in custody facing several charges, not only connected to the wild driving you see here, but to the armed robber and the robbery that police say started it all. KPRC Local 2 reporter Robert Arnold is live in Pasadena, Harris County with what has happened tonight and he's learned. Robert?
Right now, 58-year-old Kenneth Ray Poole is facing a slew of felony charges, everything from shooting at a police officer to armed robbery to reckless endangerment of pretty much anyone who got in his way during that chase. But even before today's chase, Poole is also a suspect in at least 6 other holdups. For 2.5 hours, Kenneth Ray Poole led a line of police cars from at least 5 different agencies on a winding chase from the neighborhoods of Pasadena to the Gulf Freeway, through the woods into a park and onto the Beltway. Poole sideswiped police officers and rammed just about anyone who got in his way. This man was rushed to the hospital, and Joanne Adams was more than a little rattled.
He came into this lane, and I was coming up to turn left, and he just banged me and went on.
Eventually, police forced Poole into the easy tag lane of the Beltway, where Sergeant J.D. McCullough threw out the spikes.
With him going through the lane, we were able to get the spikes out and spike his tires, and he didn't go much farther after the tires were spiked.
Poole finally lost control and careened into a crowded parking lot.
My heart was beating like 90 to nothing.
The chase then ended when Poole did a nosedive into this ditch. SWAT officers quickly geared up as other officers raced into position to keep Poole from escaping. With AR-15 machine guns trained on him, Poole kept officers at bay for at least an hour by threatening suicide. Then he suddenly stepped out of the truck.
He walked about halfway up the embankment toward the SWAT officers, with his hands up, made a comment to the effect of, "Shoot me." Obviously, the officers chose not to do that.
Officers found the gun detectives say Poole used to rob an 80-year-old woman working at the Queen Oaks Dry Cleaners in Pasadena, a robbery that began this entire ordeal.
Yeah, I believe he had a gun. He said that he wanted the money, so he gave her the money, and he took her purse, and he just got in the truck and took off.
Pasadena police say Poole is also a suspect in at least 4 other robberies. Now, late tonight, we also got a call from the police chief in Alvin, Mike Merkel, who says Poole is also a suspect in at least 2 more robberies in that city. We're live in Pasadena, Harris County. I'm Robert Arnold, KPRC Local 2.
You never got to see the suspect, but he has gray hair, he's in his 50s, and of average height and build. Local 2 checked Poole's criminal background and found that he's got several misdemeanor charges in Columbus, Colorado, including drug possession and unlawfully carrying a weapon.
New on the night.